Welcome, Haley Madison. Thank you for joining me today. I would love to start out by you sharing who you are, what you do, and who do you help?
Yeah, hi, I am Haley Madison. I currently live in Bali. I've lived here the last 6 years. I am a business mentor. We work with online coaches, mission-driven coaches, who really are just looking to create more wealth, impact, and freedom through their business. And one thing we really focus on is just stripping back to simplicity. So that way they're able to fully just embody the experience of being a successful entrepreneur. And I'm in business with my beloved Joshua. He's my romantic partner, my business partner as well. So we have three businesses actually, but our main focus is with the coaching business.
I am familiar with Haley's business as she is a mentor of mine, but I would love for you to talk about how you got to where you are now, because
Mhm.
I know there had to be some sort of journey there to get to a place of having several successful businesses with the love of your life in a beautiful place like Bali. So if you don't mind sharing, like, kind of your backstory, like how you got there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, how far back do you want to go? So I would say like my story really started when I was younger. I was really kind of put into this place where I needed to be very self-sufficient at a young age. So that really kind of prepared me for life. I'd say it was one of the biggest blessings I had, even though my family life was really challenging growing up. So when I was 17, I moved out on my own and I was living on my own and it was really difficult. And that was like really survival mode type of living, like working my ass off just to pay my bills. Sometimes couldn't even afford electric, like just like really just getting by. And this is when in my health journey, I went through this big reveal of like who I was going to become as far as like my health. It started exposing me to like the woman I want to become, because being in that place of survival mode, not even being able to afford the food I wanted to eat, not being able to afford like electric or the roof over my head, that was like a pivotal point where I had a decision to make, where I was either going to continue that path of just getting by, or I was going to fully take control over my reality and take control over who I was going to become. So I went on like that for a few years. And when I turned 21, I sold everything I owned and I got on a plane on a one-way ticket to Bali. And that was 6 years ago now. So over the last 6 years, I've really just created my life and who I wanted to be. I started as an empowerment coach. I built a really successful empowerment coaching business. I had that for 3 years, and that was extremely beautiful and powerful. And at that time, I met Joshua online through Instagram, just casually. Like the universe was like, you guys need to know each other. So that's when we met. And we clicked so quickly. And after a year and a half of talking online, I just knew him. I was backpacking in Nepal because at this point Bali was my home base, but I was traveling around the world because my business was really doing well. So I was using the income coming in to just travel and just explore the world. And I was backpacking in Nepal. I was hiking the Himalayas, and I could just feel in my body that that was the moment I needed to go and meet him. So I flew on a plane. I got on a plane. I flew right to Australia. And when I landed there, I moved in with him that day. He had a 40-acre farm at the time, and he had his life just so together. And that was such a pivotal point for me, because I recognized like while I was on such a path with like my health and with my wealth and success and all the things, like he was just such an expander for me. And he was living so in tune with how I was living with my health and with being an entrepreneur. And we kind of just really quickly merged our lives together. And then a year later, he sold everything himself to move to Bali with me. So now Bali is our home, and he's been here with me the last 2.5 years.
I love that. It's like a love story you would literally read about.
Yeah, it's definitely very challenging to get here, but it's been beautiful. And I think that's one of the biggest things. It's like when you let it be beautiful, it gets to be beautiful. And even though there's a lot of challenges that we both have faced to get here and we still face, it's like when you look back at the story, you really just get to celebrate and remember the good parts type
Mhm.
of thing, you know?
Yeah, and I like how you said that you get to decide, that it can be
Mhm.
beautiful. One of the things that I loved and I think that attracted me to you to begin with was I know you on a lot of your posts, I see you say that success is a choice.
Mhm.
Before I ever found you, I actually had the same statement I put it on my website that
I love that.
success is a choice. So I was just like, wow, like, this is totally in alignment. And it's really true, we get to choose success if we want it. It's only our own self that gets in the way, our own.
Mhm. I think like I'm really happy about this up because I think the most important pivotal point for me was recognizing that I didn't need to stay in the story of who I was. Like I didn't need to stay in the story of being the girl who was broke or had a family about that was a lot of my family was really tied into addiction. So I didn't need to stay with the story of like I was that girl, like that all made me. But to really just like let that be in the past and start to really shape who I wanted to become. I think that is probably one of the biggest things, whether it was with my health, my success, or with my love with Joshua.
Yeah, I was so attached to my old identity that when I felt the universe and the different pools, like, urging me to move on and step into this new person, I was just
Mhm.
dragging my feet. It was like, all of these different roots they were so deep, and I just didn't know who that woman was going to be on the other side. So it's
Mhm.
scary to, choose the unknown sometimes,
Mhm.
even though it's going to be better and you're meant to do it. But you have mentioned your health a couple times, but I would love to hear more about that. You said that Josh had a farm and that you both were kind of on a health journey. And do you think that's kind of another thing that related you or that made you connect?
Yeah, I think that for us, it was kind of like it made things easy in a way because I feel like a lot of the time you meet like a partner or whatever, and you're not always kind of in alignment with the way you see health or the world, and that can be quite frustrating. So I feel like we were so parallel with the journey we were on with our health and the way we chose to live our life. That made things easy, I would say. That was something I'm really grateful for. And even to this day, as we like grow and evolve, we kind of like play off of each other, which is something I really value. But yeah, I think the biggest thing with my health is just like not keeping chemicals and toxic things in our home. We really like to live close to nature. That's something we really value. Like we flew to the city last week, as you knew, and I just got like this feeling of overwhelmed, just being so out of tune with nature, even for like 48 hours. It was super interesting experience, but we live really closely to the jungle. No toxic things in our home. I don't put anything on my body that I wouldn't eat. So whether it's like my hair, my skin, my face, that's something I really find is important to me, is making sure that I'm intentional with what I'm putting on my body and the food we eat. We really like to eat close to the earth, as closely to nature as we possibly can. We really like to buy just like organic whole foods that are locally grown is something I really value. And yeah, I just think overall health, it becomes easy when you fully decide like this is my lifestyle and
Mhm.
you fully let yourself just like be all in. Because I've always been a person who moves quickly. Like if I want something or I've decided I'm going to have something, like I'm an all in type of person. And that's been really showing and revealing itself with itself in my world as well.
What's your astrological sign?
I am a Virgo.
Oh, okay.
What
A
are
lot of
you?
Virgos in my family. I'm an Aries, but
Okay.
kind of the same way. When I make a decision, it's like I'm all in it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You definitely
Um,
are.
yeah. I remember seeing on your story, actually, I'm glad you brought up the facial thing because you put on there that you never put anything in your body that you can't eat. And I love that so much. I mean, there had to be a point that you weren't like that, right? I know
Oh, yeah.
so
Mhm.
how did that, like, what happened to make that click?
That's interesting because I remember I was younger when I was like going through that phase, and I've kind of got on the path I'm on now really young, and I'm really grateful for that. But I remember being like 18 and I was very different. Like I was going to clubs or like 21, that age, like going to clubs and just partying all the time and just like kind of stuck in that era for a couple of years. And I would be wearing like lotions on my skin or like makeup and things that just like every girl does essentially. And I recognize like I value all of that and I think it's beautiful, but I just think there is a more healthy way, there's a healthier way to really approach taking care of self. And we can still wear makeup, we can still wear lotions, but it's just being intentional with what we're actually choosing to put on our body, rather than like going to the store, buying the makeup that's full of toxins or the lotions that's full of toxins. So really just becoming more aware of what I get to choose to put on my body was a big part of it. So I still find like you can still live the same lifestyle you're living. It's just making conscious choices on what you're choosing to put on your body or consume.
Yes, yes, definitely. So for me, when I started becoming more conscious of those things, it was because of my skin issues. And I just
Mhm.
started reading labels, whether
Yeah.
food or products, whatever. But that was like my, rock bottom. And I'm just wondering, like, you seem so healthy. Did you ever have any type of health issue that made you want to start being more conscious about that? Or did you just kind of open your eyes to the fact that that's not good for our bodies?
Yeah, I would say my story is a bit different because I never personally had that experience with like my health, which
Mm.
I had HPV, which was a big turning point for me. I did experience that. And it was pretty aggressive when I did experience that. So that was a point of my journey. But I would say like I've always used external influences of like my upbringing or just people who are important in my life as models of what I didn't want to become. So if
Mm.
I saw somebody who was aging poorly or just like unhealthy or whatever, I always took that as like a sign of like, okay, I want to do different. So I
Mm.
feel like my health journey was more of just like influence of others who weren't conscious in the choices they've made that really influenced me to like wake up and take control over my life at such a young age. But the control was put in my hands at such a young age of like how I wanted to live because I had such freedom in a sense, because the freedom of like living on my own at such a young age, all I was kind of cornered into doing, but it was the biggest freedom I could have stepped into because all of that I had to make choices of who I'd become. And a lot of people just get into this rut of like just surviving. And I really didn't want to be there.
It sounds like you had to just figure it out for yourself pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, like you just learned from other people's mistakes.
Essentially. Yeah. Which I think is a beautiful thing. And while I've stepped into more of like this lifestyle that I live with the successful businesses, the partner, the health, all of the things, I've noticed that the people to me closest in my life, they've kind of started to, in their own ways, like mirror
Mm.
changes in their life. And I know that's not always the case, and it's definitely not the case with everybody in my life, but there's certain people that mean a lot to me and my family specifically, that the more I've taken control over my life and all the things we're talking about, they've really kind of like mirrored that and it put power back in their hands as well. So really just like walking our talk can be really powerful.
Yes, I completely agree. I love that too. Just living by example.
That's it. Yeah. I think we often get, especially with people with health or business, even, it's like we get into the trap of like how other people are living their life or what other people are doing that are in our close environment when we need to kind of like lead the way and be who we want to become, even if other people in our life aren't reflecting that or aren't being that or modeling that.
Yeah, it gives them permission to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the hardest part is like you finding the courage internally to really be that person to step forward and make changes to your lifestyle or go fully in on the thing that you want to go in on.
Yeah, especially, at least this was my experience, trying to step into, like we were talking about, the new, this new person, this woman that I'm becoming or was becoming, versus staying as the old person and then
Mhm.
being around all the people who know you as the old version, but still trying to be this new person and showing them this is how you can be.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it can be tricky, like trying, like family, for instance, trying to step into this new, healthy, conscious version of yourself when they only know the older version of yourself.
Mhm. The trick there is consistency.
Mhm.
Because if we kind of live in that limbo state of fitting the mold of like who we know we've grown out of, then of course they're always going to see us as that version of self. And it might take years for them to catch up with who you've become, and then for like to find acceptance, really. Because when we evolve, it challenges other people's perceptions of us, and that makes them uncomfortable. So essentially, when you decide like, oh, I'm gonna change my health, or I'm going to fully immerse into this business, whatever it is, it's going to challenge their perception of change and comfort. And so you have to be really okay with like putting yourself first, essentially, in those situations.
Mhm. I find too that, because I mean, we're really also talking about boundaries. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's a huge aspect of overall health.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have my boundaries in place like I do now, my health would just be deteriorating, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't completely pour into other people's cups unless you have those boundaries and take care of yourself.
What would you say are your biggest boundaries that have like really set you up for success, whether it's with like your health or any area of your life?
Oh gosh, I feel like it's bled into every area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a domino effect, but I think it started with my health. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could call it boundaries with food. I normally look at it as discipline and, a decision, but yeah, it could also be seen as boundaries. So I think that's what kind of shifted the perspective of my family and friends, because I was now showing up as this person that ate differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I would bring my own food to different gatherings and, prepare something for everyone else as well. And maybe they wouldn't enjoy it as much. Sometimes they would enjoy it even more. And
Yeah.
so it was, that was, I think, the first step as far as my boundaries. And then the other ones I had to figure out, stumble through as I went.
Yeah. I'm laughing because when me and Joshua first met, and I said we lived very similar lifestyles, he was fruitarian for 7 years, and I was fruitarian for 3 years at the time. And I just like the same thing, like going and just bringing your own food to family events or weddings or just did crazy things, and people would just look at you like you're insane. But like, in your body that you need to put your health and your lifestyle first before satisfying other people's perceptions or what's normal.
Yes.
Yes, that's a really strong boundary.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't feel good and they wouldn't want to be around me and I wouldn't want to be around me. So,
Exactly.
on the diet portion, you make your own fresh juice every day, and I do the same thing. I want to know, what are some of the benefits that you see from doing this, and how long have you been juicing?
Yeah, I make a juice every morning. And it's funny because for some like period of time, it's so easy to just order anything in Bali and just get it delivered. But I noticed an energetic, and it's all fresh squeezed, like they make it and they bring it right to you, like just from the juice bar. But I've felt this energetic shift when I make it myself. It's like the even just like the art of just kind of like being present with the food I'm making. So I make all of me and Josh's meals for the most part, which is like rare for the lifestyle in Bali because everybody is so like eating out at cafes every day. And that's just kind of the lifestyle here. And I just found that I feel so much better and aligned with when I make my own food, and for him as well. But the juice in the morning, I feel like that's just such like a ritual for me, more so. And of course, there's lots of benefits, but it's more like just the art and the first thing I do is like that devotion to myself, and that consistency is something I really value. So it's more of like a ritual for me with creating the juice in the morning.
Mm, yeah, I can relate. I don't know what I would do with that little portion of my morning. Like, I don't know how else I would fill it at this point.
Yeah.
It's
I
been
feel like
big.
when I don't have my morning juice, I'm just like my whole day is like shifted. I'm
Yeah.
like something feels off or out of alignment. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing.
I guess it's kind of probably like how people are with their coffee.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way I could probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do caffeine. I used to do it very heavily. I'm not sure if you have caffeine.
No, actually, I haven't had caffeine. Or I mean, I'll drink a new into my world. I'll drink a matcha with a friend like once a month. But beyond that, like I haven't had coffee or alcohol since I was 21. So it's been 7 years now.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is incredible.
Yeah. I just feel like it's just not who I am. And I wouldn't even want to like force it or pretend that that's something that aligns with me. And it was just like, I decided so young, like this doesn't actually work for me. It doesn't feel good. And went through those phases when I was younger where I drank a lot of coffee just because like it was the thing everybody does, or I was such a partier when I was younger. And at that point, like I had a decision to make if it was going to align with me or not. And yeah, I fully committed to the things that I felt were just not fulfilling me. And I'm grateful for that because when I met, like, for example, Joshua, he's 35, he hasn't had alcohol since he was 20, right? So he also just like wasn't on that path. And it's just like not part of our home we've built for ourselves, right? Or coffee, caffeine, any of that. It's just like not a part of our home, which I think is something that's really important for us that we really value.
Yeah, and that you can stay on the same page of all of that is really great.
Mm-hmm.
If you could eat one fruit for the rest of your life, what would it be? Why?
If I wasn't in Bali, pineapple, because the pineapples here are very under par. Or depends on where I'm at in the world. Like if I was in Australia, it'd be honeygold mangoes. Because everybody needs to go to Australia and try honeygolds. But yeah, in a general sense, it'd probably be pineapple.
Really? I would have guessed durian.
Durian, yeah, I love it and I eat it a lot, almost every day. But I feel like the rest of my life, one fruit, I would want something really juicy and hydrating, where durian's very not at all.
Yeah, I think I've only tried it twice. It was okay, but
Yeah. Oh, and you'll try when you get to Bali, we will get you a really good one.
yes, I am very much looking forward to checking out Bali. I've heard all about the fresh juices, and me with my celery juice, I would definitely be signing up to have that delivered. But like you were saying, juicing it yourself, there's something different about it. Even when I was in Miami, they have fresh juices at stores, that
Yeah.
they're just like the ones that I would make, but I never wanted to buy them. Even though buying all the produce and doing it yourself, it ends up costing the same. But
Mhm.
it's different. It's like the love goes into it. And it's also like you know exactly how it was prepared. And yeah, it's like an energetic thing that's
Mhm.
transferred.
Yeah, I feel this way with pretty much any form of health ritual, whether it is like my juice or taking care of my skin or even my business. With like before the call, we were talking about how I've never burned out as an entrepreneur with 3 businesses and being in the space for 7 years almost as an entrepreneur, which is so rare. And I think a big part of that is really just being intentional with who I am, like in my daily life, that's able to just fuel who I am in my businesses as well. And it's not even just people burning out in their business, they burn out across the spectrum in their life, right? Whether you're an entrepreneur or not. And I really feel like that's been a reflection on how I relate to myself and how like I take care of myself is something I really find has been a big part of it.
Yeah, and I love that you spread that message. I try to share that as well to remind people to, put your feet on the ground, like physically touch the earth
Mhm.
in some way, get the sun on your skin. I mean, most people, they spend their whole days inside working, and then the only time they're outside is walking to their car to go home, and then
Mhm.
they're inside, and losing that touch and that alignment and being able to slow down. I feel like connecting with nature helps people who do get burnt out. I guess that's kind of my point.
Yeah, there's so many different factors as to why or how people get burned out. And I don't know, a big part of it is, like you said, boundaries. It's that lack of boundaries with self. It's the battle with really nourishing ourselves the way we want to. Like literally even small things. Like I notice just like even in myself sometimes, like sometimes I just like notice just like this density in my shoulders, or just like the way I'm like holding my body, just to take a breath and like just even to like to release it all. And I
Mhm.
feel like so many people live just like dense,
Yeah.
right? And just to be able to call yourself out on that and then go nourish your body and to get in the sun, like you said, and really just take care of self. Like that's going to fuel every aspect of your life. It's going to make your relationships healthier. It's going to make your business more successful. It's going to make everything just flourish because you actually are taking control and being intentional with how you want to live your life.
Yeah, check in with your body, and you can literally ask your body what it needs, like if you're out of touch or it's new to you, people can definitely just sit there, and I've done this, like just say, body, what do you need? Sometimes it's water, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's stretch your legs, whatever it needs. You can communicate with your body like that, like you would ask an actual person. And like you were saying before, with your health journey and becoming conscious of what you put in and on your body, you started paying attention to what felt good and what didn't. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of it too, is yeah, just paying attention, whether it's people, places, things, foods, whatever it is in your life, in your world, not only paying attention to what doesn't feel good, but pay attention to what does feel good. Just like paying attention to that and being conscious and aware of that can change your whole life, because then you do more of what feels good, and then you just start saying no to what doesn't feel good. And that's where the boundaries come in, because you might not want to say no sometimes because other people expect you to say yes, but maybe it doesn't resonate anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, knowing that that's okay to say no, and then it also gives them permission to say no. So
Yeah. Yeah. It really comes back to like leading the way, like just honoring what's happening for you. And I find that the biggest thing is like the more you do it, the more it all becomes second nature for you.
mhm.
Right. Like we were talking with some of you guys last night, our other group last night, about like how anything you do at first it feels hard, right? Like say for your clients, for example, that you're helping them with, when you're guiding them into a diet that helps their skin or their health. At first, there's going to be resistance because it's new, it's uncomfortable. It's like they have to think about it,
Mhm.
right? But eventually, it's going to become second nature. We don't even have to think about it. It's just who you are,
Yeah.
right? But the challenge is getting through that period of discomfort where you're learning a new way of doing something, or you're becoming something new, or you're evolving, right? There's that period of like, am I actually gonna do it?
Mhm.
And it's like making that choice every day to follow through. And at that point, it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. Like when I make my morning juice, like I don't even think, like that's just, of course I do, right? That's just like it's in my habits now, right? Or when I sit down and I like show up for my business, like of course I do. It's just like there's no resistance there because this is what I like. It just feels so alive and free. Like I know this about myself is what I do,
Mhm.
right? So it's just like working past the resistance to shape who you're becoming or shape the habits that you want to create in your life.
Yeah, it's just become a part of who you are. It's part of your identity. So
Mm-hmm.
it becomes you. And it's uncomfortable at first because it's new.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like walking, when we're babies and we start trying to walk, we don't just stop. Like it's uncomfortable, it's hard, we fall over, we cry, but you just keep going and it becomes part of who you are. It's no different. We're just
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like being brave to go into the work, like, for example, like you offer with helping them really become the most embodied, confident version of self. It's just the bravery of really allowing yourself to become that, or with our businesses, right? Helping you guys with creating millions of dollars, for example. It's just like the letting yourself become that. And a lot of people just don't let themselves see themselves as that version and they stay where they are because it's safe, like we were talking about before. But
mhm.
it's just going into the experience with curiosity of like, what will life get to be like? And remembering that through every change you make, whether it's with your health or success, it's that you get to choose who you're becoming through these shifts.
Mhm.
So with health, for example, when you are making changes with your health, I get to choose who I'm becoming through each change, right? So it's not like I start making my morning juice and I don't like who I am, right? I get to make my morning juice and I get to fall in love with who I am because I'm actually doing this for me and my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or if you start to do something and it doesn't feel right, you can stop.
Mhm.
You
That's
can
it.
redirect yourself. So
Mhm.
you're not stuck as someone that you don't want to be. And when you make a decision, if you're in alignment with it, if it feels good to you, it can't be wrong. You
Mhm.
can't make a mistake if the decision feels right.
Going back to like that burning out conversation and like how so many and with I've seen it with health too, like so many people burn out, whatever it is like people burn out from. And I just feel like that is just a symptom of something not working, right? Are you pushing too hard in the wrong direction or you need to realign? Like that's just what's happening.
Mhm.
And I find that with the burnout and looking at that, it's so many different factors. And I just totally lost my train of thought because I got so it's the most beautiful rain just started coming outside of the jungle. I just got mesmerized by it. But coming back to that thought of burnout, it's I don't have to be attached to the ritual or to the habit either. Like for me, what works so well for me is I'm constantly evolving and changing as a person. There are
Mm.
things that are consistent that are just like who I am. But even in that, like my habits change, my rituals change, like what fuels me changes, who I yeah, all of it just evolves and changes. And it might be slight shifts, but I honor it. That's the thing too. I'm never like attached to it being rigid because for me, if anything is too rigid, like I don't feel room for growth
Mhm.
for me personally. Like when it's like with things like we're talking about. So I always give myself room to evolve and change within the consistency. So I'm still always nourishing my body. I'm still always, for example, pouring into my business and staying clear on my mission there. But
Mhm.
me as a person, I'm evolving and shifting and changing constantly. And I let myself.
Mhm. Yeah, giving yourself permission to do it and explore like who you are.
Yeah, and just don't getting too attached to because what is working for you now, that might pivot in a couple of months. And
Yeah,
that's beautiful,
right.
right?
We're supposed to change.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, like, we get stuck in not changing, right? We get stuck in having a job or having a certain amount of income that is just getting by. We get stuck with like our same meals every day that we know aren't feeling good, or just the same habits that we know aren't nurturing us. We just get stuck.
Mhm.
And life gets really boring and difficult when we just get into this place where we're stuck.
Yeah, and we stay there because it feels comfortable and safe and familiar. And we're
Mhm.
taught that that's good, that that's success, when
Yeah.
there's so much more and you can feel so much better and experience so much more.
There's so many layers, but I think the biggest thing is like going back to like the bravery. Like I just get to be this now. And of course, there's deeper work, which of course you walk your clients through. It's just getting into that place where they can say that we're like, this is who I am now. And I become second nature and they're just like in love with the life. And I think that's why we hire mentors and why we call them the support that we do. It's because it's not as easy to go back to old patterns and habits when you have somebody there
Mhm.
supporting you through it. And that's something I really value is not going through these things alone.
Oh, definitely. If I could go back and do it over again, I would have gotten a mentor so much sooner. I mean,
Mhm.
it's game changing, life changing. I know you're a big fan of mentors. Don't you have several?
I do. I have a few different mentors across different areas of my life, and it's something I just really value. I don't know. I have really like me and Joshua, we have really big goals, and I'm aware of that. And so for me, I'm like, I'm gonna approach these big goals that we have that most people wouldn't. A lot of people have these goals, right? The thing is, we all have big goals, but most people don't actually allow themselves to achieve those goals,
Mm.
right? So for me, I'm like, I'm gonna set myself up for success, whether that was like, of course, with your clients, that's health, with me, that's like all the things, like with what we're creating. And what is the path of least resistance? For me, that's having support, somebody to hold me accountable. That's having a clear path on like what my next steps are, or even just like a safe space to be witnessed in my messy process,
Mhm.
right? It's always different seasons, but yeah, I'm really big on collapsing time and just doing what I need to do to get the support I need.
Oh my gosh, it makes me go back to the beginning of your story, how you would learn from other people's mistakes. Like you carried that with you, which is so valuable and such a great quality to have, to be able to do that. A lot of people don't. They need to learn on their own and learn the hard way in order to get the lesson. By getting someone like Haley as your business coach, or me for your health or for your skin, you can literally, like you said, collapse time. You can learn from all of our years of experience and do it the easy way, like have the blueprint laid out for you.
Exactly. And like, I want life to be as like abundant and beautiful and I don't know, such a romance. And to struggle to try and do it on your own, for me, I'm like, what's the point? Like, I don't know, time is the most valuable asset, and I really value that. And I think that not enough people do, right? We kind of like stretch out our time as if we have so much of it, and we kind of go through like the struggle to save money or whatever the story is, but you're sacrificing so much time. And that's something I just vow not to do in this life, is to waste the only time we have. And so I like the coaching industry. I'm so passionate about it, and helping you guys with your businesses to be so successful is because of that. It's because we're able to really support people in not wasting their time anymore, right? That's something that's really important. And with health, people spend years and years and years just doing the wrong things, or things that don't actually get them the results that they want to. And it's unfortunate when there are paths that you can take where people can guide you. You just have to, number one, find the right mentor, right? Trust your instinct, trust your intuition, and to let yourself receive that level of support.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. On that note, I want to know, along your health journey, what is the number one thing that you've learned that you wish that you knew in the beginning? It could be mindset, diet, nutrition, physical, emotional, just the one piece of advice that you would like everyone to know.
To do it for you. Don't do it for how other people see you. Don't do it for how other people look at you or any of that. Do it for you and how you feel. Because I feel like when I look at like my health journey, early on, it was very like how my body looked or how other people saw me. And as soon as I stopped like, kind of like giving F about any of that and just did it for me, I've really found freedom in my body, my sensuality, my sexuality, all of it. I found just like this liberation and like being a powerful woman, right? And I did it for me. So really, if you're doing it for like other people as like a performance, do it for you. And that goes for health, that goes for your business, that goes for any area of your life. Do it for you.
Yes, I love that. That's the only way that leads to happiness. If you do it for any other reason, you're not gonna be happy in the end.
And I'd say the other message is, which I've always embodied, is that, like we said at the beginning, like success is choice. And that's why it's like the tagline for Onyx Business. That's why it's like written across, like if I had a billboard, that would be on my billboard. It's like, if Josh was here, he'd probably say right now that like you kind of get to this, I'm gonna totally morph his words, but you get to take, and like everything's your fault. So like essentially, if you have been trying a bunch of things and it's not working, or something's just out of alignment, it's kind of my fault. And when I get to take radical ownership over that, then I get to really allow things to work for me.
Taking ownership over everything, good and bad, especially bad.
Especially the bad. Okay, I'm gonna own up to this shit. Like, I'm gonna get out of victim mode, or I'm gonna get out of this rock bottom or whatever experience I'm having right now, and I'm gonna take control over my life.
Yeah.
And choosing that again and again and again and again, and soon you'll have your dream life. Like, I wake up every day in the jungle in this beautiful home with this beautiful man next to me with multiple successful businesses, and not a minute goes by where I'm like, I'm lucky. Like, I don't think that. I'm like, I chose this, right? So getting to that place where you reach those goals that you have, it's not out of luck, it's complete choice.
That's powerful.
Mhm.
I'm gonna close it on that note because that was really great. But before we say goodbye, can you please show us what you're sipping on? Just because I don't think a lot of people drink this every day.
Oh, absolutely. It's a coconut. Beautiful Bali coconut.
Fresh coconut, literally right out of the fruit. It is, I forget what it is. It's like it has the most living, I know it's living water.
Mhm.
I think it has like the most electrolytes because it's closest to the sun when it grows.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I couldn't live without coconut. So if you can get somewhere warm where there's coconuts, do it. It'll change your life, I promise.
Yes, and it will change your skin.
And it will change. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Haley, for joining me. If you're listening, I hope you enjoyed and got some good information from this.
Thank you for having me. And yeah.
Thank you.